Hi, it's Scott. ROCKFILE back with another podcast review. Going to talk about the new 4K limited edition Steelbook edition of the 2013 version of Evil Dead. In getting ready for this podcast and thinking about it and looking at my collection, I really love Evil Dead. I even like the 3 seasons of that TV show. Not perfect, but you know. There are a variety of movies in the Evil Dead pantheon of films. You've got the original low-budget film that kind of changed Hollywood. Really did. We could talk a little bit about that. The sequel was more of a cult comedy that broke all the rules and became one of the biggest midnight movies of all time. Then they made a sequel to that called Army of Darkness that was a completely different kind of movie, and I love that movie too. Bruce Campbell writing all of that through. Then we have a long period of time, and they did this. Original producers are on board. Original writers are on board. I honestly am rewatching Evil Dead this time, the 2013 version. I think Fede Alvarez was able to do some of the things that they couldn't do back then. And I don't mean like pushing the envelope. I just mean technically there were some things when they made the original Evil Dead they couldn't do now. So the short version is, for people who don't want to listen to me babble about this movie, the 4K is a great pickup. I love the Steelbook. It's a matte finish, and because everything's so dark, you're not getting those fingerprints. It's awesome. It's a complete print on the front and the back, both on the inside and the outside. You open it up to see the full picture. It's minimal, but it works, and I think it's a great Steelbook. And this is what I was waiting for. Shout Factory has a history of releasing something in 4K. They're a boutique label. They will get the rights from Sony or another company, and then they release a 4K version of it. And then 6 months to a year later, they'll release a Steelbook of it. Now, most of the companies will do the Steelbook first, make it limited edition, make it sell out, and then release a standard edition, if you will. But Shout Factory tends to do it the opposite way. They will release the Blu-ray first, then they will release a 4K, and then they will release a Steelbook. Sometimes the Blu-rays get Steelbooks too. So anyway, I waited with like Evil Dead Rise. When that movie was first released, it did not get a 4K release, nor did it get a Steelbook. But about 6 months later, they followed up with a Steelbook release. In 4K, it's an incredible release, that Evil Dead Rise, the new Evil Dead movie. But this was a whole different animal back in the day, and I still have my Blu-ray Steelbook I got from Target. It was a Target exclusive. It's going for about $80 on eBay right now. I probably should sell it. But anyway, Sony released the movie back in 2013, and that's what I have. And then in 2018, they released the extended version, which added about 5 minutes of footage. I never got that. For some reason, and whatever was going on in 2018, I totally missed that even came out. So I'm very happy that the Shout Factory version, this new 4K version, has both versions in 4K, fully restored by Sony, given the Dolby Vision HDR color grading, which makes a fairly sizable difference. When I put it in last night, I really wasn't expecting a whole lot of difference from the 1080p, which looks really good. Even today, it's been out for over a decade now, but it looks fine. But wow. First of all, I forgot what the opening scene was in the new Evil, or the 2013 version of Evil Dead. I forgot how hardcore this movie was. I mean, I remember the overall impact of this movie is, man, that's a hardcore movie. I'm surprised it got an R rating. It pushes the envelope on violence that far, but it's not torture porn. It is bringing to life some of the ideas that Sam Raimi and the gang had for the original movie back in the 80s that they just couldn't pull off with the technology and the special effects of the time. Plus, this is a leaner, meaner, no comedy to it version of the story. Since Sam Raimi had already done a second version of the original story, and this is yet another version of the original story, I don't have a problem with it. And Sam Raimi was the producer. This is what they wanted to release. So getting into the director, Fede Alvarez pulled off what only Denis Villeneuve have done in modern times, making a sequel and or remake that is as good or better than the original. Denis Villeneuve did it with Blade Runner. He's done it with Dune. And now we have Fede Alvarez, who did it with Evil Dead. He crafted an Evil Dead movie in an impossible... Nobody wanted to see one without Bruce Campbell. Nobody wanted to see a new version of the original story. We wanted more sequels. We wanted more Bruce Campbell. And then we get this, which is different than the original 2 Evil Dead movies. in all the best ways. This is more of a horror movie than any of them. I think it's more hardcore than the original. The 4K looks fantastic. They recycled the DTS soundtrack from the last, and it's fine. It's really good. I would have loved an Atmos mix, but Shout Factory doesn't do that kind of stuff yet. But the Dolby Vision does make a huge difference. I was talking about the opening scene. I forgot that there was an opening scene before everything gets started. And this opening scene, someone gets set on fire, right? This is the first 5 minutes of the movie. I'm not getting anything away. You can see individual flames now. The HDR and the contrast, it's bright, it's singeing your eyes, and the demon talking through the fire, and that whole scene just was so much better. I actually pulled out the Blu-ray, put it in, and watched it, which looked kind of a mess comparatively speaking. It was dimmer. It just didn't have the pop, so to speak, that the scene had in the 4K. Now, I didn't watch the whole movie one way and the other. I'm just saying that there were a couple things I noticed that were tighter, cleaner, more concise. It's a cleaner picture. It looks like a 4K. Even with some of the muted color scenes, I mean, there is a lot of gray scenes in the movie, but then when you get to like the blood and everything, it's bright. It's and the different shades and everything. It's just stuff you didn't see in the Blu-ray because of the lower resolution and the lower color space. So if you're a fan of the film, this is the best version of it. And as far as extras go, they have collected all the extras from the two Sony releases and put them on the 4K. There's no Blu-ray with this. So hang on to your old Blu-ray if you need a Blu-ray copy of it. I don't know why people make a big deal of that. You will see people complain that this movie comes out with a Blu-ray. Well, I don't need the Blu-ray because I already have the old Blu-ray. Or if it doesn't come with a Blu-ray, you hear the other people who go, I never had it on Blu-ray. Why don't we get a Blu-ray with it? Well, I own the movies. I took a picture actually of all of the things. I have all of the movies in 4K, all of the Evil Dead movies in 4K, and all of the Evil Dead everything in Steelbooks. I guess I have an Evil Dead problem. I wasn't going into this movie just automatically going to like it. Same thing with Evil Dead Rise. I was so ready for the to tear the directors apart, going, you have destroyed our vision of what this should be. But on the flip side, both Evil Dead 2013 and Evil Dead Rise recently go for the throat new versions of a similar story, but done for modern times, modern audiences, and less comedy. Now, there was some comedy in Evil Dead Rise, that dark humor that permeated the Evil Dead 2 and part of Army of Darkness, but this is a lean, mean version of the original story, and I love it. It doesn't replace the original movies. They still have their place. I mean, you can't replace Bruce Campbell. You also can't replace that low-budget feel of the first one. But on the flip side, this is the story told differently, and it's worthy. It's worthy. And again, Fede Alvarez just did it. I just saw the new Alien movie 2 nights ago. It's not perfect, but he did the impossible. He gave us an Alien movie that's worthy to stand up to the first two. These are two directors, Denis Villeneuve and Fede Alvarez. I highly recommend everything they've made. They don't knock everything out of the park commercially, but all their movies are interesting and worth watching. Anyway, the new Evil Dead 4K limited edition Steelbook. If you collect Steelbooks, get this. If you don't, get the standard version because you can save about $8 to $9 current prices. I like the Steelbook. Now that I have all my Evil Dead in Steelbook, there we go. But again, the 4K edition from Shout Factory has been out for a while. I just never picked that one up because I was holding out for a possible Steelbook, and I'm very happy to have it. What a lean, mean horror movie. When people say there are no good horror movies anymore, and they quote some of the Ty West stuff, which are good. They really are. They're well done. But this is horror. Horror should disgust me. Horror should make me go, ugh, and hide my eyes or induce some fear or something. There's not a whole lot of scary stuff in this. It's just brutal. and I like it for that. It is what it is. So 2013 Evil Dead, not for the faint of heart, but definitely a worthy entry into the canon of Evil Dead films. I'm glad it exists. I'm glad we have this new 4K Steelbook edition. It comes out on Tuesday. This should post on Saturday or Sunday over the weekend. So if you're ready to pick it up, get it before it's gone. Otherwise, save some money and get the standard 4K edition. But this movie does look better in 4K. Sounds about the same in DTS 5.1. All in all, it's up there with some of my favorite horror movies of all time. Evil Dead 2013, it's available Tuesday. I'm Scott, ROCKFILE, with more podcasts on the way. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to listen to one. Have a great day.